Love. You are listening to Midday. I'm Maria Shilaos. Mail-in ballots, they've been quite a controversial form of voting nationwide. Utah is not excluded from this. A new poll from the Deseret News and the Hinckley Institute of Politics finds that roughly 50% of Utahns prefer the universal mail-in voting system, which is currently being phased out. That's due to a bill passed this last legislative session that will now require voters to opt in to receive a mail-in ballot. Lawmakers said that they wanted to balance convenience with election security. Joining me now to talk a bit more about the poll and its potential ramifications is Jason Perry, director of the University of Utah's Hinckley Institute of Politics. Jason, now thanks for joining me. Talk to me about these numbers. Walk us through the numbers. It seems like Utahns are pretty evenly split on this idea of universal mail-in voting.
You're exactly right. And the question went to this House Bill 300, which requires voters to opt in to receive their mail-in ballots instead of what happens right now, which is you just automatically receive them. And it's very interesting because we wanted to see where voters are. And as you rightly said, there's a lot of different sentiment around the country and even here in Utah. But here's what's so interesting about it. First, 50% of Utahns prefer to get their ballot automatically, the current system. 30% prefer to opt in. I'll tell you a couple of takeaways from this, but what's interesting is that's 80% of Utahns like getting the mail-in ballots. That's an important place to start. Only 11% of Utahns said they did not want to have vote by mail. So we start with a lot of consensus about people wanting to get their ballots. The question is whether you want them automatically or if you have to opt in.
So does it matter which political side you're on as to how you decided you felt about this?
Well, that's definitely where it starts to break down. So if you start with the idea that Utahns want the mail-in ballots, which is a good place, it does break down by party. It goes down to 42% of Republicans want to receive the ballot automatically, and 35% of Republicans prefer the opt-in. That's really where you see the very interesting political lens that ballots are looked at through, is, it's through the Republicans. The Democrats largely want to receive them automatically. That's 67%. Independents was 56% want to receive them automatically. But the question really comes down to those Republicans, and it is split.
And did we lose Jason? Looks like we may have lost him.
I'm still here with you.
There
Maria.
we go. Okay. So your biggest takeaway?
So the biggest takeaway is first, as legislators look at this bill in the future, they do want to keep the voters do want them to keep these ballots coming. And I think there may be tweaks going on back and forth as we try to really find the sweet spot between voters feeling like their votes are counted properly and fairly and making it easy and convenient. Time will tell. If this lowers participation, I think people are going to have to reevaluate.
Okay, so I'm just wondering how this will change election security, whether you opt in or not. How does that really change it, and why do people feel like if they opt in, it'll be more secure?
Well, I think the Republicans are looking at this saying that, having some kind of requirement that you opt in either when you're registering to vote or you're renewing your driver's license or you're going to the Lieutenant Governor's website, that adds another layer of protection because you have to affirmatively do something. I think that's the question that Republicans were looking at this last legislative session. We'll see if that's true or not. And mostly what I'm looking for to see if there is a dramatic impact one way or another on participation. That really is the key question. Do you have safety and security, and do you have participation? That is the balance.
Okay, and it's going to be how long before we know that?
It's going to be quite a while. That's the thing is, we'll just see how this progresses and how it changes. But it seems like Utahns are looking at this question a little differently than we're seeing across the country, where people are saying, let's get rid of those mail-in ballots altogether, just have people come in. And our legislature started with some of those questions, but where they ended up seems to acknowledge where Utahns are is they want to participate with mail-in ballots.
Before I let you go, has there been a lot of data that shows that there has been a real problem with election security in the state?
Well, there really hasn't been here in Utah. There are lots of allegations from time to time. There's, I think in the legislative audit that came out in October, it was about 4% of signatures may have been incorrectly counted, but it's a very small amount. No clear no clear thing has happened to say that the votes are not being counted properly or there is fraud here in the state of Utah.
Okay, appreciate your time. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you, Maria.
Jason Perry is the director of the University of Utah's Hinckley Institute of Politics, and we appreciate him spending a few minutes with us today.